about illness, but I also wanted to try to write a really funny book about life. And in doing that, I had to grapple with what constitutes like a good and heroic life. I mean, that's really what The Fault in Our Stars is about. And even right there in the beginning, you see that Hazel and Augustus have very different worldviews when it comes to what a heroic life is about, because Augustus gives her this very violent video game novelization in which a certain kind of masculine sacrifice is celebrated, and that's the kind of sacrifice that we're used to seeing celebrated in romantic epics. Like that's the kind of sacrifice that you see in, Paradise Lost or Romeo and Juliet, is someone who cares so much about his country or his lover or whomever that he's willing to die for it, and usually does.
There is no process. Like, I don't sit down and write a character sketch and answer questions about the character that are not going to be addressed in the book, like what flavor of bubblegum would Hazel most enjoy, or anything like that. I know writers who do that, and it works really well for them, and certainly there are many, many different ways to write a book, and I don't have, God knows, the best or most efficient way, or I wouldn't spend 4 years between each one. But for me, it's a slow process of getting to know the characters by writing scenes in which they appear. And so that's why I delete almost everything that I write in the first draft, because the first draft for me is getting to know the characters. And by the time I'm finished with the first draft, almost everything that I've written no longer applies, because I know them now. And all of the things that I wrote at the beginning turned out to have nothing to do with the people they ended up becoming. Besides the...
Say you're arguing against Shakespeare, but I was arguing against Shakespeare. I mean, I think it's easy for Cassius and Shakespeare to say that the fault is not in our stars, but the truth is that we live in a world where there is fault in our stars always and everywhere, and I find that very difficult to reconcile myself to. And I think I've been writing this book for so long as a way of trying to find value and meaning and hope in the most difficult and painful parts of life. Yeah, there were a couple times when it was hard for me just to write it. And I felt like it was really important to me to try to be honest, particularly to try to be honest about when you're seriously ill, to try to be honest about how you lose that feeling of bodily sovereignty that all of us take for granted, and that this sort of separation between mind and body that we all just assume exists is ripped away from you, and you realize that you have no mind without your body, and you're drawn into just being ill as a career, essentially. But I wanted to write about it hopefully in a way that was hopeful and that embraced the belief that while it is difficult, there is this hero's journey within illness that doesn't get talked about very often, where in spite of it, you pull yourself up and you continue to be alive while you're alive.